Hello everybody and welcome to my tutorial on how to make the Leviathan axe. We're going to learn how to make a low poly axe using the axe from God of War as a reference. The tutorial will focus on how to use 3ds Max for the low poly mesh and how to unwrap it. It will also also use Zbrush for detailing and then Substance Painter for creating our textures. So this tutorial is aimed at beginners to intermediate levels, and it simplifies some of the usual problems that people encounter when modeling from reference. I hope you will enjoy watching it. And please leave a like if you learned something new. If you want to know more about my channel, please subscribe and press the bell notification to receive updates when I upload something new. So now, again, let's just continue on with the shapes. I've added a few more on this side, and I'm going to continue now going this way, basically, having these forms in here. Now, it really helps to sort of go a bit freehand with the sort of form you want to add. So, for example, try and calculate sort of how this is going to go around, how this is going to go upwards. And in some way, it's going to become almost parallel to this other line over here. So it's very important that you sort of work out these shapes. Again, they don't have to be perfect or completely accurate because you're not necessarily going for that. Probably every iteration of the axe you're going to be looking at is probably going to have something slightly different. So again, just I put my point in there, and then I'm gonna press Shift. And I'm going to go to 45 degrees in that way, and I'm just going to release Shift whenever I want to commit to the line. Now, the closer you are to this, the further away you have to actually go. Now, again, I'm going to commit to 45 degrees. Let's just make sure the shape will unite. So if you look straight down, you'll see that straight away. And again, I'm going to go to 45 degrees this way. And yeah, it doesn't perfectly line up, so we might want to add a bit more, which I think see, I've gone too far now. And if I press Ctrl Z, it will take the whole thing off because I've never lifted my pen off. Now this comes with the more experience you've got, the easier this is going to be. And generally, when, for example, I don't record things like this, it's very easy for me to get correct every time. So if you guys have any sort of tips on how to make this a lot easier when when you're doing a recording, just do tell. I'm very interested in something like that. So you see, I'm trying to go a bit further, and now I can have a proper 45 degree angle. You can freehand some of this stuff. You don't have to be incredibly, as I've said, incredibly specific or precise. So now I'm going to go upwards. Now you can see that I'm a bit far away from the actual edge, so I should probably been around here, really. So I think we're just going to go back a bit, Control Z, and actually go back and try and get that sort of shape instead. So again, now I've gone too much. You can see there's quite a big arc there, so you have to be really sort of accepting at some point that maybe you won't succeed in getting that exact shape like in the in the image. So I'm thinking something like that should be good enough. So same thing, we'll just drag in, and I know this looks it can look quite tedious and boring to do, and it generally, it's not once you get into the habit of it. Once you actually start modifying this mesh, you'll actually start falling in love with it, so to speak, because it is going to be your detail that you're adding in, and you'll actually grow attached to it the more you add. I find myself to be enthralled by this for hours on end without even realizing time has passed. So now we've got this going on in here. I do see a bit of an issue over on this side, so I might just drag in a little bit, make a bit of an incision, connect it a bit better over there, and move again. And we want to have a bit of an arc over here, which I think that should be okay. Zoom out, move, and now you may want to, you can see how the degrees on that has changed, and we don't have to use 45 anymore necessarily. but we can still definitely go with 45 if we wanted to. But instead I'm going to go with the 20. Now this doesn't really snap to 20, unfortunately, so you will have to sort of go towards the size that you want to do. And you see we've got a bit of a problem as the shift key is taking the space on that, so I'm just going to eyeball it a bit, yeah, around there, and then just try and go to a degree like that. Let's see, come on, yeah, something like that. And now go again on this end. So it's just a square, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's just a square that we're doing. So I think that's enough, and then we'll just pull it this way, and that will be our shape. And now we've got these lines coming out, right? So we've got one right here. By the way, I switched to my Surface Pro laptop rather than a tablet, rather than using the normal tablet. I just find it to be a lot easier to use the Surface Pro or anything, any device of that nature. It's just so much easier to draw directly on a screen rather than using one of those traditional tablets. Okay, so I've added that detail in there, and now I'm going to add some more on this side. Go this way. You can see in there that we've got like a square, a bit of a small square. So we'll just do that. Have that nice shape there. It's actually going to look quite nice once we start adding in the textures and adding the that effect of the runes glowing, which I find it to be quite something very nice about this axe. And we're just going to continue on adding these incisions. Notice that on the reference, they're not exactly perfect, and they don't need to be. These have been carved by, I don't know, magic and dwarves, I'm guessing. So again, you don't have to be perfect in here. If you want to do an arc, it's very important that you sort of exaggerate it a bit in order for the chisel to come out. You see, I'm not really getting it over here because I'm trying to do quite a small, quite a small arc, so it's not really working very well. So you may want to switch to a different tool, like for example, maybe BDS for Dam Standard. Change the alpha. Oh, sorry about that. I'm just going to move this across a bit, and then I'm going to change the alpha to a very a hard brush. I'm going to go to freehand, and again focal shift minus 100, and the draw size is already set to 1, and I'm just going to test it out to see. Yeah, should be about right. I'm not really fussed about this alpha, actually. It's not really cutting it for me, so I may need a thinner point. So I'm just going to go with let's try the alpha 47. Let's just see what we get out of that. Oh, this is I think we need a bit of an increase in the draw size, don't we? Maybe, let's see, number 2. Yeah, and maybe some more intensity. Yeah, that should be okay. That gives us the effect that we want. So again, we'll just go this way, and then we'll have that. It doesn't look as good as the chisel though, because draw size just isn't big enough. So I've just increased my draw size to number 3, and now I should be able to do that. See, but I do like the chisel more than using the Dam Standard for this type of work. Right, so now we're just gonna go down to the to the other details below. There's quite a lot to still do, so I'm just going to now add these. I want to add these big curves in. So again, we'll use our chisel. Unfortunately, the reference is kind of getting in the way. I'm generally used to use the massive screen rather than just a small tablet as well. So yeah, it's a bit difficult to get used to. Make sure draw size is set to 1, and now we'll just start doing our curve. Let me just zoom in a bit and move this around. So yeah, around there we'll start, and we have to end. Let me just see where we have to end it. Yeah, around here. So just in line with this other square. This is about where our other square needs to come in. So I'm just gonna pick another point and just gonna bring this about there. Yeah, that should work, and we can do a 45 degree, a full 45 degree square Oh god, I don't think it's called a square, is it, when it's in that right? So 45 degree, yeah, about there. Gonna go with 45 degree again, around there, and now 45. I'm just trying to speed this up a little bit because otherwise we'll just spend, as I said, way too long on making squares and shapes like that. But you get the idea, right? This is basically what you need to do. And we got a straight line running from this side, which we can just use our shift key to get it straight. And then we've got these lines running across, which just gives it a bit more variety. Yeah, that's nice. And then we have another line running here. So again, the eye won't really if it's completely straight or not. And now we have this whole thing running across quite a big line running across. So I'm just gonna do that now. It's a bit tricky to get in one slope, so we're probably gonna have to try a few times. You can see that this line over here that I've made, this one here, is a bit too big, but it's not really a problem because I do need to fill this sort of this whole face with something that looks nice, so it's not going to be an issue. I'm sure Kratos won't mind on it, you know what I mean? So now let's go down with the slope. I'm just going to select it over there. Just make sure we're actually looking, we're looking where we should. Make sure you have the whole frame in the image, and then let's just drag, and yeah, let's just try and get an effect like that. I think we've curved it a bit over here, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. So I'm just going to move into the frame, try and zoom over in because I've not really connected it properly. So I think I've moved the mesh a little bit. So right there we'll have to do a connection. Yeah, well, it's actually, yeah, it's gone through, hasn't it? So we should be okay with that. Okay, zoom out. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Okay, and we have another line that's coming across, down here. So we'll pull it, and we'll just go, see, I've gone a bit too much. I could be using a smooth to try and just eliminate that from the surface, but I just like to make my lines again, to be honest. Okay, so you see they kind of run in parallel, so I've not gone in close enough to this other shape. So I'm just going to do that. Yeah, and about there, basically. And now if we move down and we move this down, we can see that we've got another shape forming over here. So let's try a bit of a freehand of creating the square shape. Okay, just move into position, and let's just see how we fare. Are we going to fare well, or are we not? So mine has a bit of a sharper aspect to it, which is not really a problem. It's most likely not as accurate as going to 45 degrees with it, and in this instance here, I'll probably want to push it a bit further down, just because I want to reach that end point with it, just to give it a nice looking, yeah, right about there. And now we just want to, we've got this element happening over here, which again is going to be a bit tricky to get with a chisel, but I am committed, and I hope you are committed as well. So we'll just start, just focus on it, and I think that looks fairly decent. I don't know, it's a bit more curved on this side, but you see that one isn't perfect either. So we're just going to add these tips over here just to give it a bit of a, it looks nicer that way, just like in the reference. And now we've got a circle at the end over here, and I'm just going to go to my dam standard for that, BDS. Going to zoom in, move, and let's try and get our circle in. So you can also, to get it easier, you can so this is what we can do. Get control and start doing a circle by masking, holding control and masking, and then we can try and just go around the circle a little bit, and we'll just get a better shape that way. Let's just test it out, see what we get. Come on. Okay, let me just deactivate it now. So I can just add some more details on around it. Yeah, something like that. I think I may have overdone it a bit. Let's have a look. Nah, it's fine. It should be okay. Okay, and now we've got this sort of line running this way, and then we've got another line running this way, but I'm going to use a chisel for that. So let's go back to our chisel, make sure we got the brush tip over there, right? And then I'm going to chisel, 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 right? Some other things that we could do is smooth out these points, the way the points come out. So you can try and smooth them out to get them to close a little bit if you want to. But in my experience, when I'm going to add the glowing runes into it, that won't really matter that much because we're probably going to paint that into Substance Painter. Right, okay, so now we've got our chisel selected. Let's zoom out a little bit, and we want to make this curve basically that ends around here. So this is a bit tricky to do because it's quite a big shape, and I'm not particularly fond of these shapes. Yeah, should have needed a bit of a better over there. Can we do something like this? Yeah, almost had it, didn't I? No. Nope. So I could try going like that and then going again doing that. You know what I mean? Just do it in two phases rather than going into all at once. Oh god, it's so difficult to get them correctly done. Okay, yeah, I'll leave it like that for now. Okay, and now we'll just go and make some small shapes over here as well. Just going to add a nice sort of, you know, effect. Just take that down a bit more, pinch it over here. Yeah, something like that. And like that. Again, invest as much time as you wanted to getting these shapes the way you want them. It's really up to you on how accurate it to be. So now what we've got to do is we need to add the details on this side, and then we also need to make the you know, do all the remaining shapes on it. And I think you've got the basics basically now on how to get this forward. This is not the design that we're looking at. Actually, the intricacy comes over when we're going to model this side over here. It's a bit more interesting, that one, because it's actually going to be quite an interesting an eye opener for some people. It was definitely for me when I first did it. So and actually, when we get to the sculpt this side over here, you know, this side over here, it's actually going to be quite interesting because probably some of you will ask me, well, if you could do that, then why didn't you just do it for some other shapes? And I will say to that, yeah, you're right, I could have. It wouldn't have been a problem to do that, but I really want to show people on how to create their own lines and shapes into a model without having to rely on other dirty tricks. So yeah, let's just continue. Let's just continue with the work basically. So now that we have basically finished both the sides with you know, adding the details and making every shape that we see in here, we now want to start working on the center. And basically what we're going to have to start with is this you know, this circle. But also if we go into our clay buildup, so BCB, I would then change the alpha to something more round, and then increase our draw size to maybe, let's say, about 3, and take the focal shift to -100. We do want to add these sort of you know, these bolts that are basically put in there. So yeah, I'm just going to do them around this area for reference. Look, it looks about right. Again, these are metal bolts made in a you know, medieval type of era, so Norse era. So they're not going to be perfect. They don't need to be. I think one of the beauties about this axe is that it's very rough and imperfect in so many ways. So now we'll go to our chisel again, and what we want to do is we want to create this sort of arching shape over here. So let's just take our draw size to 1 again, and then we will, you know, start around at this point and just work our way up. And again, you know, try and my shape is completely wrong because I'm doing it too slow. So you kind of have to go quicker in order to get the shape appropriately done. So let me just redo that, and nope. So, right, I hate these shapes, they just don't. Come on. Okay, I'm not really. This is one issue. So you see that they're not exactly circle-like. So what I'm gonna do is I can go to my mask pen and increase the draw size and basically just try and get my, as I said, my, oh, sorry about that. That's not what I wanted to do. And just basically get my draw size a lot higher, get the focal shift to 100, and just start adding in a mask pen over here so we can get a, you know, the shade that we want. Again, I'm thinking I'm just going to expand the draw size and just start adding in this mask in here so we can get the you know, a better result. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to Control I to basically invert the selection, go to 1, and then I want to do this chisel thing again, which is not really going to help, as you can see. Okay, so let's zoom in, move in there as well, and go to clay buildup, and basically increase our draw size a little bit, and we're just going to try and sort of put this in this way, right? So I'm just going to add it just like that. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Just slightly, you know, I'm keeping Alt pressed as well at the same time, so you know, just to make sure that I'm actually making an incision here and not a I'm not adding material. So now once we go Control, you know, this is our shape basically, so we got that in. It's not perfect. The circle is going to be very good, you know, very good looking, but we do have this problem where we've made it too fixed. So I'm just going to sort of use shift and dragging around so I smooth out the areas a little bit, and it's going to help with the overall shape. Yep, I'm happy with it now. Okay, and this is basically our outer layer, outer, whatever you want to call it. Now go back to mask. Sorry, increase the draw size first, and let's go back to mask, and we want to add the next circle around here. So we'll do the same thing. I'm not really, I mean, if you really want to be accurate with the circle, you can just go and drag, keep the control press, then select drag rectangle from here. And then when you do this, you'll basically be able to drag a rectangular shape. It's actually perfect. And now we want to create the incision. So again, we're in clay buildup. It might be a bit too much, but we'll see. Let's put our intensity higher, as we're going to use drag rectangular again to make this incision. I'm not particularly fond about the alpha, so this is a bit of an experiment for me as to how to achieve this effect. So I'm thinking that's going, yeah, if we put that in the middle and now we drag, we should be okay. I think if we, you know, we try and do this again and maybe do it, oh sorry, I didn't put in the middle there, and I didn't put in the middle the last time either, so it's a bit, right, so let's have we into the shape. Yeah, looks about right. And now we'll go back into shift. I want to go back to my selection, so I Control Z to go back to my selection. Well, actually, no, you know what, we'll just start with a new selection. What we'll do is we will create a new selection over here, just like that, in the middle. Is that in the middle? No. Really got a problem tonight. Really got a problem right now with getting this into the middle. yeah, around there. So now what I want to do is, again, with the clay buildup, we'll go into freehand, and I just want to sort of take that down a notch, taking it too much, and then also use shift to smooth it out a bit. Okay, and now we'll control I for invert, basically the shape that we got. I do want to create a bit of a slope, so okay, I'm just gonna go into I'm gonna zoom in. Let's just have a look. Oh, sorry about that. Zoom in, make sure you are in front view, right? Move again, zoom in, move, and let's have a look over here. I've got let's just control drag to take the mask off. I've just got this slope that I'm not particularly fond about. You know, it's too much of a, see that, too much of a hard edge over there. So I'm just gonna smooth that in a bit. It's definitely gonna help with our overall shape based on the reference that we've got. Okay, so I think, oh, let me just activate solo mode so I get that handle out of the way. So and this is basically what I wanted as well. Let's zoom out a little bit. The more intense these shapes are, the better it will look on the normal map as well, because of that height map calculation, the height and normal map calculation that you'll do in you'll have in Substance Painter. So what we basically want to do now is we want to start adding some more shapes into this circle that we created. You know, add that nice sort of effect that you see on the reference image, basically. Okay, so I'm just gonna start working on that now. So now what we want to do is we want to start working on this shape over here to basically create this, you know, we have the circle. We want to do this, you know, a bit of a design down here, have these holes as well for the runes, and then, you know, just some details. Now it really all depends, it's really up to you if you want to go with this specific design or if you want to put another design. You'll see that throughout the game, for example, as you change the axe, you upgrade it and so on, you will see that it basically changes quite a bit. So the design here changes a bit based on what you're getting. Anyway, so basically what I'm doing now is I'm masking this area right about there, because I want to create this sort of you know, it needs to, we need to try and bring the shape a bit downwards in this area. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just gonna you know, just work my way through here while masking this this shape in as best as I can. Again, it's all about preference. Again, I do want to bleed in a bit in here, inside the cavity, just to blend them a bit better. So I'm just gonna do that and just push over. Just, you know, make sure you have symmetry activated, because you do want to have the same effect done on the other side. Again, this is a symmetrical shape. So yeah, okay. So we've done that, and now let's just zoom out a little bit. Now we'll press Control I on the keyboard, and that will invert our selection. And what we want to do now, you know, we've got clay buildup, hold Alt and just drag across a little bit. You know, I'm just doing this for test, just to see. So it's a bit too rough there. I don't want that. Let's just go back and undo. So I'm just gonna make my brush size a bit bigger so I can take a higher amount. See, I've taken too much. So again, while holding Alt, I am trying to bring the shape in. So the handle will show through, basically, as you can tell. We don't need too much of a detail here. We just need a little bit for the normal map. So I'm just going to decrease the draw size and then go with the pen and sort of do a bit more of a curve here. Yeah, something like that. Maybe increase the draw size a bit more. Try and get it a bit more. Now, if we look on from the sides, we should be able to see a decent enough of a shape there. Yeah, they should be fine. Let's just drag like that, and let's look at well, actually, we'll just have to increase our intensity a little bit just to try and smooth this area up a bit. Again, not really a problem. This is metal, so it's not really a problem if you get some a bit of rough patches. This is metal, so metal is not metal cast in this way is never perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom out, zoom in by pressing F on the keyboard. And then move my right. Okay, so I think it's about okay for that shape. So I'm just going to zoom in. What you'll notice is that my model may look a bit different from what you've got based on how you've made it. You know, I've got the circle here. The problem was that my ZBrush crashed and deleted a lot of steps, so I had to redo some of them. Unfortunately, I'm just smoothing this area out a little bit as I want to come in here and add some of my own, you know, some of my, you know, make this a bit rougher. See, so I want to create a bit of a rougher texture over here, just like in the like you can see in here on the model. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit, but I am going to try not to do that too much. So just smooth it out a little bit. Okay. So yeah, it crashed, and I had to redo some of this stuff again, which was unfortunate. But sometimes you do lose your work on ZBrush if you're not careful. You should save quite often and save in different instances. Export your file just so you don't lose it. I'm sure a lot of you have had incidents before. Right. So one of the things that we want to do is let's go to BDS for damp standard. Focal shift to 100, you know, intensity is okay, draw size, let's leave that to 3. I am going to change my brush alpha to something a bit harder, like that. Let's just have a look, see, that seems to be okay. Now what I want to do is I do need to bring this down here, see, but it's a bit too strong, so let's just have a look at the intensity. See, I need to bring this down here, just like in the shape on the the shape on the reference, basically. So I'm just gonna come down with this about here again. Yeah, that should be fine. Now let's go back to clay buildup, and we want to start, you know, get a round alpha, and we want to start adding some more details in here. I do have that one, you know, which is a bit of a better high quality, as you can see. So let me just see what I can do. I'm probably I could probably look for let's say for a drag. No, it's not gonna cut it. I don't remember what I've used that with, to be honest, to get that sort of a shape, but yeah, we should be okay. So around here we can do the second one. You know, just drag it in, put it in there, and then smooth it out a little bit. I'm going to smooth this out a little bit as well. So that's for these bolts, basically, that are in here, are on the reference up here. Again, they don't have to be completely symmetrical or anything like that. We could potentially be pushing this maybe a bit more to the right, so maybe about here, which will be fine. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to do that. Yeah, okay, so that should be okay. Let's just do that. And now we want to start adding some more shapes down here. So we know we've got 2 bolts here. Now you can see how this shape actually eats a lot more through. So we could potentially be doing that as well ourselves. You know, just try and eat some more of this shape in here. Try and get it a bit more covered. We could potentially do that, and then just probably use B, T, and D for dynamic trim, and we could just trim it in and create these, you know, create this shape over here. See, that doesn't look too bad, especially if we use a planer on it as well. All I'm saying is there are options. If what you're looking for is get it as accurate as possible to the model from the reference, you know, we can still eat at it. So just clay buildup is the one, isn't it, for organic shapes especially. Right. Okay. So BTD for dynamic trim. So let's just trim in here. Okay. Yeah, that looks about right. You see, it gives a good aspect as well. So we will have a design around there as well. Okay, so now for the design phase. So we'll go to BDS for dam standard. We'll go to freehand. Let's make sure that's freehand. We have to add detail, not remove detail, as you can see. So let's just zoom in a little bit so I can show you exactly what we're going to do. So we want to basically go around this. So we'll just put this as Z add rather than Z sub. That means that now it's going to add details. Let's increase the intensity a little bit and let's have a look. Yeah, that seems about right. So we want the intensity. Let's start from over here. We want to go with it around the form and then reaching this stage, right? That's what we want to do. But we do have to be able, we want to be quite. We want to be able to do this as a clear sort of circle, which is going to be a bit difficult. I'm so not used to using a tablet like this. I'm very used to use a tablet on a screen directly. Okay, so we do. Yeah, I don't really like that one. So let me just redo that. What I am going to do is I'm going to go to my mask pen and make sure I go into drag rectangular and I'm not in drag rectangular. Right, so I'm in drag rectangular. I'm just going to make a rectangular selection and I'm just going to push it all around there. Okay, and now in my dam standard I'm going to go to drag rectangular selection and then just go into this alpha. Now what this is going to do, you can see how I can bring a sort of a circle out there, and that's the idea behind it. But based on the intensity and focal shift and so on, you may get different results. So let me just try and play with this a little bit. The intensity is not going to help me at this stage. See what it's doing there. So let's just try the clay buildup instead. Drag rectangular and alpha, and let's see how that looks like. I think we need more intensity. Yeah, I think that's going to be looking better. So we'll just drag like that. We just need to match. You see, you can use the circle. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, right? We're going to mask again up here so it doesn't affect the form. See that? That's what we're going to do. And now just make sure the red circle is like that, placed like that, or around there, and when you drag you will get your circle out there. And let's see how it looks like. Yeah, not so bad. Okay, not really so bad. So now I'm still in clay buildup. Let's go with the freehand. Let's change our alpha to something else. Let's make our draw size a bit smaller. And I've got these these things where I'm not really particularly fond of what I'm seeing. You just need to make sure your brush alpha is something more smooth. Let's try now. It's not gonna cut it. It's not the right one. Maybe something like that. And we probably want to just sort of add in some more dynamic to the shape here. Just close this gap a little bit. Maybe go for a smaller brush size and just go through and just fill in these shapes here. And then let's just go let's go F and out of the model. Now zoom in. Want to always look from afar to see how it pans out. Okay, so one of the things I want to do, I want to add a circle about here. We can add a circle up here, one up here, one like that, one like that, and one like that. And then we go into BDS for damn standard. Let's go to freehand. Let's change our alpha to something small, and now intensity a bit lower. And then let's just try and get some shapes going on. So we can do something like that. We can then do something like this and like that, and then something like this. You know, just have some random shapes in here. Just basically, you know, I haven't really done the best of jobs, so let's just try this again. So you'll want to go, you know, try and get them to cross through each other. You know, something like give it some variation. But again, you don't want everything to cross the same path. So this is going to be a bit of a problem, because so if they go this way and then you get one that comes this way, you know, you just get this snake effect. Now, I'm not really looking for a certain design here, and this is probably the problem, because I'm not looking for a design. If I were looking for a design, if I would follow the pattern from the actual model, then I wouldn't have such a hard time to put something together. So I am just going to do something in here that looks remotely okay. I don't really like what's happening when they cross each other. They're not, you know, I'm probably just pushing too hard on the pen. So I'm just gonna do something like that. And yeah, okay, then let's do this. Let's just split them at the ends, you know what I mean? Just try and get some cover some more of this shape in here, and it just gives that effect, you know, things are actually happening. There's an intricacy to it, and so on. Now, some other things that we can do is we can decrease the draw size and then add some depth to it. Add some cut through the shape a little bit. So, you know, we create these crevices in here, which will all translate very well into the normal map. You can see how I'm just adding some very small details in here. It's just going to give it a better shape. Okay, so something like that. Again, you can do all sorts of things in here. You know what I mean? It is really up to you. Now, one of the things that we can potentially be doing is we'll go to here and make sure it's a drag rectangular, and let's just pull at it. Oh, this is Z adding, so let's just go to Z sub, and I'm going to increase my draw size and intensity, and let's just have a look how that shows up. It's not, oh sorry, I had the wrong alpha. So this is the alpha that I want. So I want to add. See, this is not exactly. This is where the clay buildup sort of helps me with this. So drag rectangular circle, and then let's just see what effect we get. And obviously, I want to go with pressing Alt. I wanted to take away from the shape. So I've just added a bit more variation in there, you know. Oh, sorry. Something like that maybe. And since we're in clay buildup, let's go to freehand. Let's pick another alpha, smaller brush size, and you know, let's just do some more sort of detailing in here. We have these etchings basically, which are definitely going to help with our shape overall. Let's just go like that a little bit to have a look why are the etchings sort of coming through. So yeah, let's add those in. You can do as I said, you can do whatever design you want. If you actually want to go for the design that you see on the image and on the reference image, you can do that. I personally did it once. You know, I did this. I tried doing this axe a long time ago, and I did it, and it's very time consuming. And in the end, it just replicated it, which is nice. But we can do designs of our own as well if we want to. So yeah, that's about right. And there, again, you can come in here and add some more depth. You know, try and eat away a bit more on this material if you want to. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to create right here a clear border. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna do that. So it you know it sort of creates a it does give this clear border on both sides, which again, you know, I'm gonna do it around like that, and then go to BTD for trim, and let's just trim this a little bit in here. Yeah, it gives it a bit of a, you know, it stylizes it a bit, but yeah, that's good. So now let's go downwards and add some with BCB for the clay buildup. We'll have to add the other, you know, the other what do you call it? The other bolts in here. So I'll do one bolt there and one bolt there, which I think should be quite okay. Oh, sorry, this other bolt is a bit, it's not really centered properly, so around there. Yeah, eyeballing something like this is again, you're not trying to do something that's machined. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, but you're not trying to do a model that's basically it's been done on a CNC machine or something like that. You're trying to do something that's a bit more what you call it, naturally looking, like it was actually done by these ancient dwarves. So they don't have CNC machines to do them. They just have magic. Okay, so around here we want to do our inset. So we'll do one there, then we'll do another one over here. Okay, and then we'll do another one down here. Okay, now we control I to invert, and obviously, as you can imagine, we'll have to eat at the material. Now one of the problems that we're going to have is we're going to reach the handle. We could go to the handle and just eat away at the material. That wouldn't really be a problem. But let's just try without. Let's just try and go to a drag rectangular, and then just go into the center of that, and let's just drag in and see how much we can actually be eating at this material in order to create our inset in here. Yeah. So because again, this is on the geometry side of things, this is not going to be a okay. So that's it. That's the limit there. So if we do that, that's our limit, and I think it looks okay. On our actual geometry, well, this is just going to be normal map. So it's not going to be geometry unless you want it to be geometry. You know, if that's what you really want, then that's fine with me. You can do that. It's not a problem. Okay, I'm just going to eat at this one as well. Again, as much as I can around there, I think. And then we'll do the same thing here, and I believe this is the closest to the handle. This is the closest point to the handle, I believe. But we'll see in just a little bit. Okay. So let's have a look. Yeah, it looks quite good, actually. Okay, in terms of the size of them, you know, you may want them to be equals, but it's really not that important at the minute. Right, let's just undo to get back into the selection. So now we'll just invert the selection, and we'll do something that's a bit more interesting. Want to add our very own details to this, right? You see these details. Now, one of the things that these guys, when they made this axe, one of the things that they didn't actually, you know, somebody didn't actually go in here and etch stuff. Or maybe they did, but the point of the matter is you could have better designs. You could have very nice designs done with just a mouse, not a pen. You don't need to do a pen. You don't need a pen in order to do this. So as I said, you can do this model without a pen. So what I've got here, I've got Photoshop opened, and I've taken this this alpha from Google. I've just got it over here, you know, on Bing. I just went on Bing and just looked for Viking ancient symbols and whatnot, and then, you know, I've got this one here. So in Photoshop, just go to your magic wand. If you don't have Photoshop, basically we need to transform this entire white area into black. So with the magic wand selected, just press on the white area and we'll select everything that's white. And then just make sure you have the bucket tool and you're on, your color selection is black, and just pour it in there. Control D on the keyboard, that will take you out of selection mode. So now we have this basically as an alpha, as a stamp. We'll just save this, where I've got it, where I've got it in my downloads files. And once we have that, we'll just go into, let me just take this reference away. We'll go into the brush alpha. We'll say I want to import. Oh, sorry. So import, and then I'll select Mjolnir, and now that has loaded my alpha. So now if I drag, you can see how this is going to add this alpha on the on here. Now we need to tweak a bit our brushes basically. I mean, do we want to put the alpha with the clay buildup? It's really up to us. So what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to use the BDS, the dam standard, rather than the clay buildup. But I'm going to put my dam standard to add rather than remove. Now I do need to tweak some of these details. So intensity a lot lower, focal shift is okay. So the intensity probably needs to go to, let's say, about 15. Now let's have a look if 15 is the right amount, and I believe it is. So what we want to do now is we want to add some very nice designs over here, right? So for example, I'll just turn this around, and then I am going to make sure it matches this area, a bit like that. Well, actually, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it from down here. It's all about finding an appropriate shape for your axe. So whatever you think will work better with the axe aspect. And again, you're not limited to this alpha. You can just go and get as many as you want and experiment with them. I find that if you get the Viking sort of ones for this axe, they actually fit the build quite nicely. So I don't know, let's do something like that, and then we'll do maybe do some on the side as well. We're repeating the same pattern over and over again, but the reality is that nobody will really know. So that's very important for you to understand that this is how a lot of these things are done. So in case you didn't know, this is they'll probably have somebody that actually creates these alphas, because then the alphas can be used across the board in multiple projects. Add details into multiple projects, and this is standard in the industry. So I'm just gonna make maybe another stamp over here, and then maybe another one over here. Again, it's a bit tricky to get them placed in properly, because obviously you want to create a rather symmetrical shape. So let's have a look. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Now some of the things that we may want to do is we may want to add some maybe some borders or something like that. I've just used the same one over and over and again, as you've seen. So one of the things that I want to do is perhaps go. Actually, no, I don't think I want to. So for example, I could go in Photoshop now, go to a brush, basically, and maybe I want to add a dark area. Create this. Let me just switch to a brush that's hard brush. Make sure I'm on black. Okay, it doesn't really matter. And maybe I just want to add this element from here. This is not a very nice brush. This is not a very. Right. I'm just gonna use my color picker really. And I'm just going to take this black. Okay, and why is this a... I wanted to get a hard brush. I don't understand why it keeps on switching to a non-hard brush. Right, so you know, you can basically do this. You can extract this alpha like this, because we're adding this black area on it to basically say, you know, I don't want to use these shapes from here. I want to use only the ones that are in white. So you can do something like this, as long as you make sure, you know, as long as you make sure they're actually pretty symmetrical. I'm sure you can activate symmetry in Photoshop as well if you wanted to basically edit what you edit on one side, you edit on the other one, so that would make things a lot easier. But again, it's all about you having a workflow, and that's your own. You know, I would definitely do things a lot differently if I wasn't doing this tutorial. So, you know, I've got something like that, and I've saved it, and now I want to go back into Zbrush and import the alpha again, and now I've got this shape. So this is going to be a different sort of shape, but I want to go to clay buildup and use it. So, you know, I could put something like this in place. Let me just experiment a little bit in here. Because of the center point of the alpha, this is getting a bit difficult to place. You know, I can do something like that, for example. Now notice that some of the alphas, you know, sometimes the alpha is a bit clearer in some places than the others, because it all depends on how your brush is set up and what the curve of the model is. So now I do need to do a bit of cleanup in here. So just gonna basically smooth it out in certain areas. So I don't need I need a bit of a cleaner shape in here. Actually, I don't like the way that's smoothed out. Okay. So if I go to trim dynamic, no, that's not going to do it, is it? It's going to affect the whole shape. See, if I do trim dynamic here, this is what's going to happen. But let's actually just try a planer and see. Now it's too much, isn't it? Okay, no, it's going to affect. It's better to just smooth it out, really. If I go to draw size like that and just try and add a planer on top of this, see, it will help a bit with the shape, but you don't want to overdo it either. So you have to be very careful with the planer brush. See, I've already affected shapes that are up here. Well, planer can be dropped anywhere, really. You just gotta play with it a bit with the settings on it. Right. Okay. So we've done a few shapes that are basically, you know, from an alpha. This has just been one alpha. You could have used however many you needed for this. I'm just gonna go in BCB and clay build up again. Remove the alpha and just go back to my normal alpha. I'll take the draw size down. I do want to sort of add a bit more. Sorry, that's not the right brush. I do want to add a bit more variation here, as these have been flattened a little bit. And now what you want to do is you want to add a bit more detail, manual detail in. So things such as you know, having these curves. So you know, I wouldn't use clay buildup for this. I would use for damn standard, and with a normal, you know, something like this. But you want the draw size probably a bit smaller, a bit nicer, a bit finer. So intensity maybe till around 15. That looks nice. So then what you want to do is you want to start creating some shapes, maybe. So you go again. It's sorry about that. So with the shapes, you want to maybe do some nice forms, some nice wavy forms. So you're gonna go like this, and then you go. One of the things that you don't want to do as you make these, you see how they just come out very, very awkwardly, is because you need to basically let your hand loose. So for example, you know, I don't know, you see if you leave it a bit looser, then you'll be able to get a better shape just by doing that. And then, but then you don't, if you're gonna make something like this, you don't want to start in the same place, or you don't want to be sort of tied down to one shape. So you may want to do some very different shapes all the time that don't necessarily have a connection, an apparent connection with each other. So for example, you can do something like that, and all sorts of things. You know, you basically can work your way with these as much as you want, and in whatever way you want to work them out. You can look at the designs more of a grade, a grade on it. So you could potentially be getting an alpha for that. You can make your own alpha, or you can get it off the internet, and then there wouldn't really be you're not going to have a problem with precision then. So I've added these things here, and maybe I'll do something like this. I'll do, just drag through. So something like that. Maybe increase the intensity a little bit, just to get a bit more bump out. Maybe you want to come with some details like this, and then with some other details. Maybe you want to do these shapes. So try and build some. God, I'm really terrible at putting these shapes up tonight. So something like that. Yeah, and now maybe we just do some lines like that. It's really not nice that we don't have symmetry on this side, because we could have done the same thing on the other side, like what we're doing right now, and would have looked a lot better. But again, we've got some shapes over there, and for example, you've got these lines now. If you want to make them more interesting, just add some other lines, connecting lines like that. And honestly, once you texture these, they will look phenomenal, because the texture in Substance Painter, you can add a different type of reflection and glossiness to these, and just make them pop out a lot more than the rest in the sort of details underneath. So I've just added. You could probably do some scribbly runes in here. You can get the runes off the internet, off Google as well. So I can pretend that I know Viking symbols or God of War symbols, and just put this through. But yeah, these are the sort of details that you can put in, and they will look so spectacular at the end. You won't even believe it. You won't believe it yourself of how much how nice this looks like. I'm just adding some, just eating away a bit of the material in here for a bit more depth. So yeah. So look at that. I've just added some more lines and squiggly things, and as I said, this is not a design. This is in no way something that I've thought about. This is what I'm going to do. I mean, you can see the rough patches and all that, right? But then look at it from afar, and then you understand how adding some of these details can change. You manipulate pixels in such a way that it creates this intricate design that people, when looking at it from further away, they'll say, "Wow, that looks amazing." And you know what? It doesn't look bad. But what I'm trying to say is, Zbrush is very powerful if you use alphas correctly, and that's what people do when they get these amazing results and amazing designs. They just use alphas to their full potential. And now for these runes in here, you know, we can't really eat through this material anymore. So I'm just gonna use a circle alpha again and just basically add details to create a bit of an inset coming onwards to say that this is, yes, this is indeed where the socket would go. I mean, if you want to make a socket as well, be my guest. But you know, it's really, go for it, man. Honestly, you can add so many more details in here. You know, I'm thinking, do I just add another circle and I just create this sort of even more intricate design? You know what I mean? And it just basically this whole thing is now a it's got more details into it. You know, look at that. It just already changed it. And look at here. You know, I've just added some lines on the sides, and it's already from further away. It look really good. And maybe you know, maybe you want to add, so do this, for example, just go with maximum, just go with supersonic intensity and just add a little bit of these circles on top, and trust me, that's going to make all the difference. So you see that I'm just adding these circles right here, not necessarily a so look at that. Okay, and now you realize that the circle, you probably should have pushed these circles a bit more and just have another one here, but it doesn't really matter, right? It looks good, people will like it, and you know, you can add your circles everywhere, to be honest, if you wanted to. But now let's just leave it like that. You know, potentially could be adding some more details around in here, but you can see what we've achieved just by playing a little bit. And if this wasn't the Leviathan axe and it was something else, I would honestly just go with the design everywhere. Right, okay, so we've got that covered. We've got this final piece here to do. Now, as you can imagine, it's more of the same of what we did in the other parts. You know, more of the same in here. I really do want to go now to the handle, and then, you know, to the head here, which is going to be the more, let's call it the more complicated part of this axe. And that should be it. Then we will do our bandages, sort of thing. As you can see, it's got these leather straps around here, not bandages, leather straps. We'll do those, which that's another process that we will extract out of this handle. And yeah, but this is here is key. This piece right here is key on achieving a proper feel to our axe. So now that we've basically got our the axe head done, let's just go into our handle. I've selected it in the subtool, and now let's go into geometry. Let's dynamesh this. Oh, sorry, not at that resolution. We'll do it at 1000 again, and just click dynamesh, and that's it. It's dynameshed. We got a bit of polygons in there to work with. Just gonna leave it like that for now. Now, some of the things to identify straight away is the features of this, right? These are what I call features, and the features are the most important bit, because it's what makes the shape, what makes or breaks the shape. So if we go to BMV for move, we may want to move these features a little bit, maybe just drag that one out a little bit. You know, it's all about pushing some of these shapes in. Go back to clay buildup. We might want to work on this over here. Let's just get our focal shift high. So you see, we got this sort of corner like here. I'm not particularly fond of, so I'm just gonna do that. Right, just make sure you've got your transform and your symmetry to the z-axis right active, because otherwise you won't be affecting both the sides of the model. So some of the things that we can do, right? We know that right here we've got the tongue. We know that right here we've got the nose, and this is where the head sort of is, right? So I think what we want to do is want to outline the basic shape. So I know we'll just put our intensity a bit low. So I know that this side is going to be this side. You know, it basically comes this way. till about here, and then it goes this way, right? This is that shape over there. And then I've got the horse's shape, the horse head shape, which comes like that and goes in here, you know, so something like this. And this is where the face is, and this is where the nose comes through, right? So why don't I just define the feature of the nose, which seems to be quite an important feature. I'm just going to try and actually equalize this a little bit in terms of the overall shape. So, you know, bring it, because it's a flat plane, by the way, so it's almost flat. So something like that. And we've got these teeth coming around, and we've got its mouth, and the mouth sort of ends about here, and it's not as fixed, so I'm just gonna remove some of that detail from there. Okay, so it just sort of comes up here and sort of goes this way, right? Just make sure we actually get some of these curves right, rather than. God, I hate drawing on a tablet on the desk. It's so weird. I do Photoshop. I do Photoshop digital paintings, and I'm just used to have my Surface Pro in front of me, and you know, and Zbrush is also very easy on Surface Pro, but it doesn't do very well when you're trying to video record as well. So, you know, we've got my tongue. Sorry, not my tongue. We've got the half horse, half dragon. I don't even know. We've got the tongue coming on this side. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more, and then I'm going to decrease my draw size, get my focal shift like that, and just sort of try and do some more outlining. The reason why outlining is important is because you sort of decide where the big shapes are before we actually go into putting any details. Okay, so you see we're not working with a lot of polygons, so we won't be able to push this too far either. So I've got this coming over in here, and then I've got it coming over here, and then going like that. So I do have some gaps here. You know, just gonna smooth out. Remember to smooth out from time to time. It's important to sort of reshape the whole polygons. This looks like a very low poly version of what we're seeing on the screen, right? Again, I don't particularly expect you to try and get the perfect shape. And to be honest, if you wanted to actually get this horse done exactly how the way it is in here, there are easier methods to do this. One of them being alpha. You could just make an alpha out of it, and that would be a lot easier. And to be honest, if you're really trying to do this for production, and you had a reference like this, like an image, you'd probably just do alphas. You would still need to clean them up and all that, but it would be a lot quicker. But I'm not here to show you these kind of shortcuts, because I don't think you're necessarily ready for them. I'm in many cases not ready for the shortcuts either, for shortcuts like that. Okay, so I've just added I would say I've added some of the shapes that we're going to be working with. Okay, if we go down here, you know, we've got this ear that we could be potentially looking at. I'm just going to just go to trim dynamic, and just decrease our size, and just try and trim it out a little bit, because this is going to be a flat plane here, probably from this side as well. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to probably add some more bulk on this end. You can see how wide this is, and you may think, well, isn't that a bit too wide? To be honest, if you don't make it wide, if you don't make this wide, it's going to just look very awkward, because it's an axe at the end of the day. It's not imagine this just becoming like a spear at the end. It just won't make any sense. Right, it needs to be thick. You can imagine Kratos will probably pummel somebody with the axe. Whatever, I don't know. He's the god of war, so he can do whatever. But just try and figure out your shape. I mean, it's for me. It's not a personal preference. It's just that's how I see it logically going down, basically. he's going to use that as a part of the weapon as well. I know it's made out of wood, but this is clearly magical, unbreakable, indestructible wood. So yeah, I've used a lot of words there, haven't I? Okay, so we've done this, and I think it's about the stage now that we may want to start detailing it a bit more. So we've got Dynamesh deactivated. We'll just divide our mesh once, and we're actually going to divide it twice. So we've got 2.8 million polygons, so quite a lot to work with. So we know where our basic shapes are. Now, one of the problems with clay buildup is that it's obviously going to create a bit of a problem for us, because it's going to add a lot of these canals, or it's gonna increase the shape in many places. It's going to elevate it basically, and we don't want that. We want to have a bit of a flatter surface now that we've added some meat to it, because we want to start adding some of our details in. So I'm just using my trim dynamic to sort of create these this sort of this feeling of yeah, these are where this is where there's some depth, this is some, you know what I mean. See that it's already started to capture a bit of a form of the actual horse head. And by the way, the trim dynamic is really nice to create this effect that this is actually wood that's been carved. You can see how it's a bit on the stylized side, but just go and carve some wood the way this is carved, and you'll see that it kind of look the same. A lot of the details from the normal map are going to come from the actual texturing, but you may want to not do anything with texturing. You just want to do it with the normal map. So from your normal, you want to maybe want to make the details from the normal map. So now let me just try clay tubes. Clay tubes are a useful piece of tool, because you can add shapes of this nature. So you know what I mean. You can see what it's doing as I'm adding it in. So I'm just thinking of adding some clay tubes on this side, and just going like that. And this is the shape of the horse basically. Yeah, BTD again for trim dynamic. Let's make it a bit more dynamic. Let's do a bit of a trim in here. Yeah, like that, and then let's just push onwards. So now let's go to some clay buildup as well. Decrease the shape, and let's start with some of the effects. So as we can see on the reference, we've got this here happening, sort of, we've got this shape over here like that. Let's just try and smooth it out a little bit, and then we've got this shape over here, and now we've got another small tooth over here. We've got the tongue, which comes and unites over in here, and the tongue is a bit of a thick sort of shape. And then we have this tooth over in here as well, and we have another one over in here. Okay, we've got this shape going across. We've got the nose, which I personally believe I've messed up a little bit in here, because I need to add more of my details over. Try and make the nose a bit thicker than what it actually, what I've got it at. So you see, if you come around like this, you can add some details on this side and basically create the thickness of that nose. You see. Okay, let's go back to our smaller brush, and let's do that. And now it's, this is where our hole is going to be, and I might want to actually create the eye probably around here. did I make it big enough? I wonder. So I'm just gonna do that. Now deselect. Just add, yeah, something like that. Again, I'm just going to probably cover it now and just try and do this shape a little bit. So yeah, I'm coming this way, something like that. Let's just smooth it out a little bit and then just go add it again. Some people just smooth and then trim and so on because they obviously create that shape. Okay, so we've got that, and I think I think I just need a bigger canal, to be honest, because I want to add that sort of, I think that's an eyebrow or something. I think that's what it's meant to be. So, but I've got too thick of a, and now it's too small. So, see, something like that. Oh man, honestly, there's so many curves in here tonight. Okay, you know what? Intensity, that's what I need. Okay, maybe even a bit more. Yeah, okay. So, what do we think? Flat enough? Probably not, it's a bit going that way, you see. So, it's not really that flat, is it? Okay, believe it or not, there is a solution to our problem. The solution is we need to drag the shape out, but in such a way that doesn't make the whole thing look like a gum, you know, like it's a fish. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to increase this side. I'm probably gonna have to do that, you know what I mean, widen it basically and straighten it at the same time. Something like that. See? And we might want to be a bit smaller on the, oh no, that's not gonna work, is it? Okay. Something like that. And then let's have a look here, which is the same thing. I want to push it out. See? So I'm making it straight. Yeah. And then this ear here we'll take this out as well. So now we can drag it, and yeah, okay, starting to look a lot better, I think. Starting to look closer to our it is a bit too bulky. I admit that it is a bit too bulky, so you know, we might need to pull it off a little bit. I don't know, you know, maybe it's this that's making it too bulky. I can't really put my finger on it. See, I've got this protrusion here, which I'm not really fond of. Yeah, something like that, maybe. Yeah, because then I can just construct on top of it. You see. Okay, so clay tubes. We'll probably want to add some more clay tubes on this end. One of the things that you can do with the clay tubes is you can sort of mask. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mask. Let me just go to freehand. Oh, sorry. God. Freehand, and you may want to, well, actually I could do rectangular, but let's just do a rough guide. So we're wanting something like that, you know, and then we want this curve over here, and obviously this needs to reach all the, you know, on the other side as well. So, and this comes all the way here, like that. Now we, oh sorry, not that. Now we do click, control and click like that. We've got clay tubes selected, so let's just add a bit of clay tubes, but not in that way. Oh, sorry, smaller intensity. definitely smaller intensity. And then, okay, let's see. Yeah, smaller size, do a little bit of, actually no, it's pretty rough, isn't it? So the thing about clay tubes is that they're not really good at making shapes sort of fit with each other. So yeah, look at that. So yeah, it's going to be a bit difficult to get them all to fall into line. So it's because of the intensity that I'm using. So that's how the horse's sort of size comes in. Like that. We'll probably have to start now doing some trim dynamics on this on this bad boy here, because we want to get the shapes done correctly. We need a rounded shape over here. You know, if you alt and trim dynamic, you're going to start adding material rather than removing. So there's that to consider. A bit of a big gap here. I'm not particularly impressed with. And then we also need to work on this side here. So I want to do a bit of a higher, yeah, draw a side smaller, and then just pull through. Oh, that's too big. I don't like the fact that I don't have this angle here, basically. Trim dynamic too big, so I need to use a bit of a smaller trim. Okay. So again, we need to do some more. You see, we cannot have these pores all around, so we'll have to add some more details here. And then we want to do a trim dynamic on this as well. Yeah. And now we want to get to a stage where we start adding some more details to it. So you know, for example, we've got this area around the mouth that's obviously a lot more. It's got that canal through. So for example, you go to down standard, you obviously go to a freehand and a small brush, and then you go to Z sub and you get your intensity down, because otherwise you'll kill the whole thing. Draw size to 1, and you want your intensity to around, yeah, something like that. Let's try a bit bigger. Yeah, that's good. And then you want to sort of come around and do this shape, and again I'm gonna struggle because I'm not using my screen tablet. The reason why the reason why I actually got this tablet on that's not on a screen is because I wanted to use it on my PC, which has a higher performance. Okay, so just done that bit there, and now we can start doing some incisions in here. You're not supposed to be doing any sort of incisions with a damn standard of this type, because you'll get these effects. So it's not gonna look nice. Damn standard is to be used only for lines. You know what I mean? So you just can't get your results with it. But for example, we could go on this alpha, get a the problem with the clay buildup is the alpha itself. You have to be careful what sort of alpha you're choosing, because you create these odd shapes if you're not careful with it. So right now I'm just trying to create a bit more, tie these shapes in a bit more. You know, for example, over here I've got this tooth that needs to be shown, and the only way for me to do that is if I do this sort of cleanup. Yeah, you see that? See how it starts to show up in there? Because we've got morph target active, we're not being very destructive with our brushes. If we deactivated morph target right now, we would be looking at a totally different story of how these brushes are affecting our model. So yeah, I'm just gonna add that in there, do some incisions, make sure this is sharp as well. You know, do this. Let's go to any. We could use now adaptive, but gotta be no. Just gonna use trim dynamic. I don't know if you. I think you've noticed already, but I'm using all the standard brushes. I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting the better. There are some better trim dynamic. Sorry, there's some trim brushes out there. I want to use the standard toolkit only because that's how somebody who wants to learn how to use ZBrush, this is probably what they're going to be using anyway. You know, they're probably going to be using a standard kit rather than something advanced. So I'm just in planar mode right now, trying to get this area cleaned up. You can see what the planar is doing. It does, however, add a hard edge on everything, which can be problematic. And because here, you see in this area, there's no more. The shapes are not matching. See right there. We don't have enough material. Oh, sorry about that. It's not necessarily matching in here. So now if I switch back to planar, oh, but not that big, it should start matching a bit. Not doing it very well though. Okay, and now we go back into our clay buildup, and we obviously build. We want to do a bit of smoothing in here as well. Smooth these edges out. Don't want them to be too bad. Don't want them to be too hard. Yeah, and now if we go into trim dynamic, we're going to get a bad effect. Going to go in trim dynamic, we'll be able to sort of clean this up a bit more. We'll need to smooth this out. Okay, let's have a look from far away. So it's starting to come together. Very slowly, I might add, but it is starting to come together. So I think the eye, you see the eye over here, we could have done a way better job at this. As you can see, we could have eaten a lot more out of this material, expanded with the eye a bit more, make the eye bigger. So probably just gonna want to do that now. Let's just increase the intensity. So we'll go to dam standard rather than, you see the dam standard will obviously have a higher sort of effect on the mesh. We don't want to do that either. So again, let's just build up a little bit in here, and then just trim dynamic it. So now what we want to do is we want to start planing this model up. What I mean by we want to make every shape in here be as flat as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my mask pen to basically select this area here, which is basically you know, it's a slope, it's a down slope. So I'm going to use my mask pen to be as accurate really as needed. So I'm just going to select these areas. You know, make sure you've got your mask pen intensity to you know, as high as possible, and then use a hard hard alpha for a more accurate selection. So I'm just taking my brush size, you know, making it smaller and smaller so I can have these small shapes in here selected. As you can see, well, you know, as I'm doing this, you can tell how I'm basically going around selecting every area. Okay, I'm just going to continue on selecting this like that, and that should be, yeah, that should be good enough. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to basically invert the selection. So control click on the canvas and that invert the selection. And now I'm going to go to BCB for my clay buildup, increase the draw size, and I want to basically use, you know, take away from the material, so holding A and drawing a bit, take away from the, you know, basically trim the material. And now I'm going to go to my trim dynamic, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to, oh, sorry, we don't want to overdo it, so we've got to be careful with the trim dynamic. And now once that is done, basically, let's just invert again and move, and now let's make our brush a bit smaller, and let's start selecting these areas. Okay, so just select all of that, just leaving the actual head of the horse unselected, so something like that. Yeah, around there. Now we're gonna go to the front view like this, move a bit, and just select downwards, and basically keep it a straight line. So we want to go something like this. Yeah, so we don't only affect these areas. So yeah, something like this. Now let's move, let's rotate, and let's start drawing on this side. Obviously you can go into you know, this view and then now start drawing. So we'll go around like this. Okay, and now we want to select this area right here at the back. So we'll do the same thing, try and maintain a straight line. Okay, and now let's go into the side view like that. And let's go to our BCB again, increase the draw, and we'll just try it out a little bit. Nah, it's going to be too much. So let's just use our trim dynamic basically with a smaller brush size. If we need to adjust our intensity, we will. It's all about doing a bit of an experiment here to see how we can flatten this to an acceptable degree. So as we flatten it, you'll see that it actually basically goes, it becomes shallower than the area that's supposed to be shallower than it. So we will rise this form out after we flatten it a bit. So yeah, something like that. Now I'm going to decrease my brush size and then just start doing a bit of changes. You know, trim a little bit on this side as well. Trim a little bit more here in the center. Try to create a few angles. And as you can see, we've got this area here which is not looking too great. So by holding Alt, I'm trying to bring some of this out. Sadly, it's not coming as expected. So let's just try a little bit with a build-up. something like that. Okay, now let's try and trim it and just trim it a little bit to flatten it a bit more. Okay, and now if we control, try to invert again to have a look, I think it's all right. So okay, with our horse head selected, we're now in clay buildup. Let's decrease our draw size, and I want us to start adding a bit of detail in here. So now just give it back the form that we had. You'll find that this is just going to add a bit of depth to the whole head. So we're just going across the whole model, across the whole selected area. And now again, trim dynamic. Just make sure actually try and increase the draw size, try and get a bigger gap, a bigger space, but don't see, the problem with that is we don't want to create these very big slopes. So now I've used trim dynamic. Now we can use a bit of the smooth brush as well, and try and get a bit of smooth out these areas a little bit. And we're still in clay buildup, so I think now is the perfect time to let's go in clay buildup. Now is the perfect time to start working a bit on some of our other details based on the reference that we have. So we have this eye over here, which again, we can using Alt to basically eat away at the material, but we can also add material in there as well. Let's just decrease the brush size even more, and let's add the eye in. Now we can try to do that eyelid, which is a bit more sharp, as you can see in the image, in the reference. But I like it this way, to be honest, a bit more thick. Okay, now we want to do the nose, the nostril over here. And now we want to move to the basically to the mouth as well. And now what we want to get some clay tubes in here and just trim a little bit on this side, something like that, and also trim on this side a little bit, so we can have these basically we created these we have these teeth in here that they need to show a little bit. As you can see, we're kind of running out of polygons to work with at this point, but we should still be okay in terms of adding a bit more detail. I haven't made that curve that we see on the reference, unfortunately, and it is a bit we'll probably have to modify it quite a bit in order to get that. Let's get our dam standard. Make sure the brush is set to an appropriate size, so you can actually get this sort of shape in here, this incision done. And then we'll move on to the upper base. And basically what I want to do is I want to have this contour done. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold shift as I drag over, just to create a line that runs equally through. I can smooth it out a little bit so it doesn't look so rough. And then I can also go from this end and just no, it's not looking too good, is it? Let's just do some clay buildup in here. In these areas where basically we've now added sort of like we want to unite these two fronts a little bit, so I'll just use a clay buildup and then a smooth. And now I'm just gonna go dam standard, smaller brush size, and just pull through like that, and we just unite it on this side. And we also want to trim dynamic this a little bit in here. So I'm just going to increase the draw size and just use trim dynamic in order to create a planar field to work with. Now let's go to dam standard, make it very small. And this is the point where you want to start adding some of these shapes that you see in the on the reference. So, you know, we can do that. Then you have these wavy things going about. So just do something like that. Then we've got this going around. Got another one coming this way. You know, the more details you add, the nicer it will look. And I don't know if these symbols mean anything, or you know, in the universe of God of War, but it's all about just making it look cool. So I don't think it has any sort of meaning. But again, I may be wrong on that. So I'm sure the artist who put these shapes together had some sort of, you know, specs to work with, or some requirements of symbols from different references. So I'm just adding, you know, just carving this a bit more, just adding these waves through. Let's just do some circles, some squiggly things. So it's like doodling basically at this stage. And you know, what we did on that side is going to be on this side. And now we obviously want to sort of add more details as we go along. So we're just gonna get to clay buildup. So just clay buildup, increase the brush size a little bit, and we want to start adding some details on here. Unfortunately, I moved my gradient downwards a little bit, so I'm just gonna add some textures. Basically, that's what I want to do. Let's just zoom. Increase draw size. So this is just a bit of you know, just having a little bit of fun with adding some variation in the shape. And now we're on the side, so I want to do a trim. I want to do a trim over on this side, something like that. Now let's go to dam standard with the smallest draw size. And we want to, you know, have the shape. I want to unite these shapes a little bit like that. Now with a bigger brush size, let's add some more details. And as you can see, we're basically gonna be working on this front here as well. Move a little bit, and then just add a bit more on the front side. We also want to add a bit of detail on the side. So this is sort of our horse shape. I would say about done in terms of, as I've said, if you really want to push this even further, you can. I mean, the idea here is that if you want to be entirely accurate, then you'll basically be spending a bit of time on working on this shape. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I don't want to, you know, make it too long. I think it's already a bit too long. I'm just going to basically leave it like that. I mean, it does have a nice carved looking shape. I haven't specifically followed all the rules that I should have in order to get a proper a similarity. But now we'll just move on to the, you know, down the handle. So right now we're starting the handle. Now there are two ways to go about this, and I'm just going to show you the second method, which a lot of people I believe use, and it's probably a lot more accurate. So if you would like to go for, as I've said, the you know, copying the symbols or the details from the reference, then this would be the way. So since we have pure ref open here, this is going to give us an amazing advantage at being able to transfer this detail over onto our mesh. You could import this reference as a texture in Zbrush, but what we're going to do is we're going to take pure ref and basically put it on top of our mesh over here. So in pure ref, if you let's just zoom out a little bit so we get a bit more detail. We're only interested in this side here. So we're going to basically right click pure ref, then go to settings, go to colors, and then put the mask opacity, let's say around there, and then just close this window. So we'll then position our pure ref to basically match our model. We'll zoom out if we need to, and so on until it matches. So right about there, I would say. Again, this is, I normally don't do things like this. I want to make my own designs, but yeah, so that's about right. Now what we're going to do is, if we right click pure ref, we've got a mode option here, and we want to check to select transparent to mouse, and the keyboard shortcut for that is Control T, because if you want to disable this, you'll have to press Control T or right click pure ref in the taskbar. So once I do that, you'll see that I basically can start drawing on my mesh, applying lines on my mesh as this it goes straight through the pure ref panel. So one thing that you can basically do is you can start outlining these sort of shapes that you see on the pure ref image. So just to get the sort of shapes that you see on you perfectly see on the reference image. So that's what people can do. So for example, now I'll tabbing to the pure ref image, so I'll move it across and you can see what sort of changes we've made. Just by basically, they're not the most amazing, I know, but basically this is how this whole thing would function basically. Okay, so I'm just going to position back in again, pressing Control T, so we're now back into ZBrush. Let me just undo that and let's start from from scratch. So it's going to be a bit difficult because you can't really tell as much how good the lines are when you're making them, so you may want to decrease that transparency. You can for example press Alt on the keyboard and then go to well, actually you'll have to, I think Alt on the keyboard doesn't work while you're using pure ref like this. So you will have to basically press the options up in the taskbar on ZBrush. At least my Alt doesn't seem to be functioning. So again, Z add, and there's these shapes that are basically coming out of the mesh rather than going inwards. So you can add those in. You can do some interesting things around here. I could say, just on the sides, you're not going to affect the mesh as much, so you'll have to go on those shapes again. As you can see, these are carved shapes in timber, and that was the whole idea of these models. So that means that they're not going to be perfect. They're not these squiggly rounded lines. They're actually quite imperfect, as you can see in the design. Okay, so now we added a bit of detail. Let's just move pure ref. Oh, sorry. Let's just move pure ref out of the way. So basically, that's what we have. So, what is there a real advantage to this? I would say it definitely is if you want to go, as I said, for a clear copy of it. But I would very much like to go. I'm gonna now continue with my own design sort of thing. So, you know, for example, I've got this line over here. You know, I can just continue on, and then I can come through here and just add something like that, and then do another incision over here. Go with a few lines this way. I am trying to match the reference a little bit, so I'm not really going completely haywire on this and just choosing my own. But I think it's very important that you do sort of your own ideas. They're not very clear on the reference image that we're using either, so you're not really gonna, you know, it's not gonna be that much of a difference. And also not following that reference means that you can add some bigger lines, more, you know, bold strokes. So for example, like I'm doing here, you know, I'm trying to create these nice shapes. Just look at Viking reference for look at Viking symbol for references, and I think that should definitely help. Try and add some variation by uplifting the polygons rather than just carving through. Well, the carving bit doesn't quite make a lot of sense on timber because, well, it does make sense, but it would be a more difficult process than just having incisions into it. So, I don't know. Depends on what you want to achieve. Go for a few straight lines, and then, you know, just have some more of these wavy parts, and then the back. You know, we can increase the brush size and just go with some with a bolder design. So we'll just do something like that, and then something like that. One other thing that is really nice to do is, for example, go increase the making an incision and also lifting the mesh in near each other, so it creates a nice sort of shape. Oh, sorry about that. You just have to be careful that you're facing the right way when you're applying these. And connecting lines are always going to help. Let's just decrease our brush size. So I'm just gonna add a bit more through here. And you know, I've done design like this before, and the one that the thing that I like to do the most is basically go in Photoshop and make these as alphas, and then just combine them and replicate them and just create these really nice shapes, because Photoshop offers some tools for you to get some really good shapes across the board that do not have any sort of don't have a lot of discrepancies between them. So I think that's also useful to look at. You know, we could try and do some line work here. Oh, and also a lot of this stuff can also be done in Substance Painter directly. And with the new releases of Substance Painter, having the Photoshop brushes inside is so much easier to actually get texture in there. And I think a lot better than what a normal map can do in certain cases. I mean, right now we're just creating height deformation really, and you can do that in Substance Painter as well. So it really, I think right now we're at that point where your preference is really what matters the most, or how much skill you have in each part. Okay, so now we're just getting to a point where we're reaching the straps, and that will be the final part that we're going to make on this handle. Some other things that we would probably want to do as well is maybe, you know, you'd go through the timber side of things, so you go upwards and you basically add some, you know, you can see that it's still got some shapes around here as well. So you may want to play around with that. You know, it's got these sort of like marks, but nothing too fancy, nothing too obvious. And it basically gets to a point where that's lost completely. So you could potentially be making some runes, you know, have some nice shapes in there, and then the timber itself, you know, we will sort that out in Substance Painter basically. There's a lot of tools for that, and yeah, let's just jump on to creating our straps. And then we'll move on to back to Photoshop for UVs and some other parts of the process. So now what we want to do is we want to create our leather straps. So let's go to Subtool and let us deactivate the axe head, as we won't need it. Go to axe handle, and now we'll basically build our straps around this, you know, taking into consideration the reference. So the first thing, let's append a cylinder. So I'm going to show you a method here basically that I like to use to make straps in general. So make sure you have the cylinder selected. Then press W to go into the control gizmo, press the customize button, and then make sure we are actually working with a cylinder 3D. Once that is done, press Shift F on the keyboard just to see the wireframe. And if we play with the slider, we can, you know, we don't need any height segments. And we'll leave the rest as is. Now go back into, press W again to go back to the gizmo. Holding Shift, sorry, just rotate it by 90 degrees, which is fine. And now let's start scaling it down. Okay. Now go into, well, make it longer, and let's go into top view. To snap to it again, hold Shift and drag, and now we have snapped into top view. And now let's just move this into, you know, a bit into position. Yeah, that's about there, right? Okay, so now that we've positioned it, we would like to well, position it based on how we see it on the on the reference. It's just going to have to tweak it a little bit. Basically, we want this cylinder to match the shape of the handle. So I'll probably leave it like that. Again, I'm not going for 100% accuracy here, as we would take, this tutorial will take a lot longer. So I'm going to press Q on the keyboard to go into our, you know, edit mode, into our draw mode. So what I want to do now, let's isolate this, let's go into solo mode for this object. So we want to get rid of the caps, so just Control Shift, and then you know, just click the oh sorry, I need to make this smaller. And before I actually do Control Shift, so make the brush smaller, but before we do any of that, let's go into poly groups and group by normals at 45 degrees, and now Control Shift and click, and just like that makes that cap disappear. And then we've got to make this other cap disappear. So now they're basically, if we Control Shift and drag, we'll see our caps only. And if we Control Shift and drag again, we'll see our cylinder without the caps. Now we go into geometry, we'll go to modify topology and just say delete hidden. And now we no longer have the caps at all. Let's go out of solo mode. And we want this, as I said, to match up the shape a bit better. So let's press W on the keyboard, then customize again and just do a taper. And now using the taper settings, let's just try and sort of like, well, taper this a bit to the shape. Again, it won't look amazing as of now. Press Q to go back into draw mode. Now the one thing that we want to do, let's go to Subtool. Let's go into project and press the project all button to see what happens. It's not too good because it's affecting the shape. So you know what? Just leave it like that. Don't do anything. Let's go back into solo mode. Let's press the brush button over here and let's select our phone. I can see it. What is it now? Not select, slice curve. Yes, that's the one. So Control Shift for slice curves, yeah? So let's just do some curves to basically reflect some of this topology of these straps. Again, don't go for too much. Don't try and match it up, because again, if you really want to match up these straps, you'll have to sort of like create multiple. Do this same task that I'm doing right now, do it multiple times, fiddle with it a lot. And it's quite doable, and I'm sure some of you guys will want to do this and really just enjoy the process, because it's quite a nice process. Okay, so I've now I've sliced the this mesh in quite a few pieces. Let's get out of solo mode now, and what we want to do is let's try and project all again. Same thing, we're not really getting the result that we want, so not really a problem. Just press BMV for move, increase that brush size a bit, and let's try and sort of like move this into shape. Again, it's gonna be a bit odd to try and match this shape, but I'm sure we will succeed in the end. Okay, let's try on this side, let's try on this side. You basically you've succeeded the moment when you use project all and you get no more interference, and I'm just glad to say that we're about it. Yeah, that's done. We can fiddle a bit more with it if we want, but I think it's gonna be okay. Right. Okay. So now that we've done this, let's just go in solo mode to have a look at it. And so yeah, it looks okay. There's no problem there. What we want to do, let's just press project all again. Yeah, it's fine. We now want to create our our leather straps around around these edges, basically. So we will go into another brush here. What is it now? Called the curve strap snap. Okay. Now, based on the brush size that you're using, so let me just go into solo mode. You see how big my brush size is. If I drag now and press shift, after I start dragging, and then release click, this is the sort of strap that I create, which is very thick. So we're now going to decrease our brush size to something more acceptable. Let's try with that. You can see the ring when it's forming. Yeah, so that's basically the strap that we created. Again, too thick, I might say. So let's just drag again. Yeah, that looks about right. Now we go to the next one. Same thing, we drag. You can see that's automatically masking. Based on your preferences, you may want to start moving them right now. You know what I mean? So you can edit these individually as you make them. So that's actually quite an important bit of this. The reason why we're using these edges and we're not using the we're not using the polygons, as we could use the polygons as well if we wanted to. Oh, sorry about that. Let me just keep on selecting that. It's because the topology is now following the topology of these rings that we're adding is following these edges, which then means we're going to have quite a nice effect while doing this. So yeah, as we go down, you can see them sort of overlapping a little bit, which is fine. We do want that. What do you do to really achieve the same result as in the image, the reference image? You'd have to make multiple cylinders like this, and then just add rings around it. Okay, so that's basically it. Let's just control drag to eliminate them. So we've got all these rings, and these are going to be our straps. Okay, now the first thing that we want to do is we want to auto group them. So go into poly groups again and press auto groups, and this is now obviously auto grouped it because we want to get rid of the cylinder that we originally created. So now, okay, let's just do Control Shift again, but just to make sure you go into rectangular before you do this. So you want to basically select this cylinder over here, and in order to do that, let's just wow. Okay, we're lucky. We're lucky. We just selected the cylinder, which is great because now we can just invert the selection, which is great. But some of you will have a problem with this, and you'll basically try to select this, you'll try to select it, but you'll select like a ring. So once you do that, just Control Shift, sorry, let's Control Z. So once you have the ring selected, Control Shift drag to invert, and basically, you know, I've just added another ring to that, and then I can add the actual cylinder. Now Control Shift drag to invert selection, and you basically want to sort of bring these rings back in, which can be tricky. See, it's a bit, yeah, it's definitely a bit tricky to do this. Come on, okay, it's fine. See, just fiddle around with it until we get the cylinder out of there. Now let's drag again. So we've got our you know, our rings saved. Now I'm gonna go into subtool again. Sorry, not subtool. We'll go into geometry. We'll go into modify topology and delete hidden. So now we have deleted that. Now let's go into polygroups again and group by normals, and then we'll go to geometry, crease, and crease polygroup, and this adds that nice crease over there. I've shown this in my previous tutorial of mine. Okay, so we've got the crease done. We'll now in the same category in the crease, let's just do a bit of beveling. Not too much though, so don't go too crazy with it, something like that. Let's see how that looks. We'll go to our dynamic subdivision and just apply it, and just go 4 times on the smooth level. So let's have a look. Basically these are our straps. Okay, now we go to subtools and let's get out of solo mode. So this is how our new sort of mesh looks like, yeah, the rings. Because we didn't match the topology quite perfectly when we actually did these, that's why they're actually eating, you know, going into the handle itself. So, but no problem, we'll just go, where was it now, to deformation, and let's just inflate by 1, and voila. Right, okay. Now you can see that we've got quite a few spaces in between this. Again, you know, we can rectify this in multiple ways. We can add another cylinder and we can do the whole thing again. So actually, let's just try a different approach to it. You know, we do want to fill some of these gaps, although, you know, not looking a lot like the reference in the way that it is right now. But you know, we can play around. So you can fill these gaps by adding another layer of these straps, or duplicating this one. So you can go into, you could press W, right, on the keyboard, and then you could control and drag, and as you can see, I've just created a new version of this, something like that. Let's control drag again, and you can see now how I've just basically added a more straps that are basically going on top of another. So that's a solution. And you know, just to go one step further, we can go into deformation again and basically say, well, I want you to inflate by 0.5, you know what I mean? Or you could inflate it even more. Let's try a 1, maybe do 1 again, maybe do 1 again. You know, it can all work. Really depends on your effect, but I'm just gonna leave it like that. Right, so you know, this is a solution. As I said, there are multiple other things that you can do. We could have made it all again. Now the other thing that you can do is go to BM and select the move topology, increase the brush, and basically what this does, let's just deactivate from geometry the dynamic subdivision. Basically what this does is it picks the topology and moves it. Right, now this is very important because you can basically, you see how it pulls away, right? So it just pulls away at the polygons. So why am I saying this is important? Because we have these straps to go around like that, and you may want to basically pick one from here, right? Or you may want to go to transpose smart, keep control pressed, and then just drag, and you will select one of these, whatever, from here, and then control and, oh, sorry about that, control click to invert selection, and now keeping control pressed, you drag out and you just took yourself a ring out of that equation, yeah, and you can now edit it, and it's part of the mesh itself, the ring mesh. So that's one solution, but what I want to do is, rather than using transpose smart and all that, I'm just going to go back into my MT for topology, move topology, and I'm going to try and move some of these upwards and try to create this form a little bit. Yeah, so actually let's do that. So if done correctly, this should be working quite okay. Let's just drag upwards. Just make sure you're quite balanced with the way you're dragging, so you don't skew the what you call it, the polygons too much. Now obviously we'll want to bring this inward. You can see that red dot, which will basically indicate what's the point of contact, where are you actually dragging from. That's, you know, it's very important actually to know. See now I've dragged the other mesh in there. Now, I think that's about all right that way. And now we've got this. Oh, sorry, I don't want to drag that one. I obviously. Okay, we've got a bit of an issue here because the one that we want to drag is not. Okay, there we have it now. So I pull that one out. Let's just drag it outwards. It's going to be a bit tricky because you're obviously working on the same mesh. Now, well, actually, we could do something else here. We can use our transpose smart and just make sure we select this one. It's going to be a bit tricky, but I'm sure we can do it. Yep, there it is. Invert selection, and now we're only editing this one. Okay, that's good. So let's go back into BMT for moving only the topology, and let's take our topology outwards. Now guys, I haven't told you the biggest advantage of what I'm doing right here. What I've got in my possession is a low poly mesh for basically for our low. So once we create the, you know, we're gonna have our high poly subdivided, whatever that is, you know, whatever the amount of polygons will be in there. But we also, at the same time, we have our low poly done as well. And that is important because this speeds up the workflow quite a lot. As you can see, I've kind of messed up the topology a little bit. Now, in this case, normally what I would do, I would just start it all over again, really. But yeah, I think we'll be okay. Let's just, you know, there's ways you can rotate these, you can do all sorts of things, okay? Okay, so let's just now try and go to dynamic subdivision again and have a look. Okay, not looking very bad. One thing in here is I've got this sort of, yeah, push that in. You can drag this out like this as well, but it is very costly on the performance, so I would disable the dynamic subdivision and just pull them like that. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, right. Dynamic, let's have a look one more time. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I hope you guys are happy with it as well. Again, you can do so many things here to edit this any way you want, you know, to add as much variation as you want. If, for example, you know, you could come in here and you can start moving a lot of these around, just create a lot more variation into the shape. You know, deactivate dynamic and just pull things apart and get them to look as, you know, different and all sorts of things. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's all up to you. Right. So now that we have this done, what we want to do is we want to go to subtool, and we need to duplicate this one. Yes, we've got two now. We will rename the first one as straps low, let's say. And the next one we'll rename it as straps high. Okay, so now we're keeping track of them, yeah? So on the straps high, what we want to do is we basically want to tell, well, we want to move to an actual subdivision level rather than dimensional divisions. So we'll do divide divide. Let's go into solo mode to have a look. Yeah, I think let's just try and divide one more time. No, it's 2. I think, no, it should be fine. Okay, so 1.5 million points, that's fine. And if we go to solo mode, you'll see that the low poly is kind of taking front and center here. So let's just go to subtool. Let's go to our low poly. No, sorry, not low poly. Well, actually, yeah, we can do. Low poly, we'll go to the formation and then we'll inflate by minus 0.1. Did that do anything? Minus 1. Minus 1. Okay, so I would like us to now check the effect on the subtool. So let's deactivate the high. See, this is the problem. This is not what we want. So rather than doing what I've done here, I'm going to activate my high and I'm just going to make the high inflate. Okay. And that's that, basically. It's fine. So now let's go into solo mode on, no, sorry, no, well, yeah. We'll deactivate solo mode, but deactivate the handle as well. So what we want to do now, using our pen, basically, we want to basically, well, add some sort of information on the actual surface of it, if you know what I mean. You know, to make these creases and such that generally leather has, or textile, you know, grips have. So if done correctly, this should be working quite okay. Let's just drag upwards. Just make sure you're quite balanced with the way you're dragging, so you don't skew the what you call it, the polygons too much. Now obviously we'll want to bring this inward. You can see that red dot, which will basically indicate what's the point of contact, where are you actually dragging from. That's, you know, it's very important actually to know. See now I've dragged the other mesh in there. Now I think that's about all right that way. And now we've got this, oh sorry, I don't want to drag that one. I obviously, okay, we've got a bit of an issue here because the one that we want to drag is not, okay, there we have it now. So I pull that one out. Let's just drag it outwards. It's going to be a bit tricky because you're obviously working on the same mesh. Now, well, actually, we could do something else here. We can use our transpose smart and just make sure we select this one. It's going to be a bit tricky, but I'm sure we can do it. Yep, there it is. Invert selection, and now we're only editing this one. Okay, that's good. So let's go back into BMT for moving only the topology, and let's take our topology outwards. Now guys, I haven't told you the biggest advantage of what I'm doing right here. What I've got in my possession is a low poly mesh for basically for our low, so once we create the, you know, we're gonna have our high poly subdivided, whatever that is, you know, whatever the amount of polygons will be in there. But we also, at the same time, we have our low poly done as well. And that is important because this speeds up the workflow quite a lot. As you can see, I've kind of messed up the topology a little bit. Now, in this case, normally what I would do, I would just start it all over again, really. But yeah, I think we'll be okay. Let's just, you know, there's ways you can rotate these, you can do all sorts of things, okay? Okay, so let's just now try and go to dynamic subdivision again and have a look. Okay, not looking very bad. One thing in here is I've got this sort of, yeah, push that in. You can drag this out like this as well, but it is very costly on the performance, so I would disable the dynamic subdivision and just pull them like that. Okay, oh sorry. Okay, right, Dynamic, let's have a look one more time. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I hope you guys are happy with it as well. Again, you can do so many things here to edit this any way you want, you know, to add as much variation as you want. For example, you know, you could come in here and you can start moving a lot of these around, just create a lot more variation into the shape, you know, deactivate dynamic and just pull things apart and get them to look as, you know, different and all sorts of things. Yeah, doesn't really matter, you know, it's all up to you. Right, so now that we have this done, what we want to do is we want to go to subtool and we need to duplicate this one. Yes, we got two now. We will rename the first one as straps low, let's say. And the next one we'll rename it as straps high. Okay, so now we keep a track of them, yeah? So on the straps high, what we want to do is we basically want to tell, well, we want to move to an actual subdivision level rather than dynamic divisions. So we'll do divide. Let's go into solo mode to have a look. Yeah, I think let's just try and divide one more time. No, it's 2. I think, no, it should be fine. Okay, so 1.5 million points, that's fine. And if we go to solo mode, you'll see that the low poly is kind of taking front and center here. So let's just go to subtool. Let's go to our low poly. No, sorry, not low poly. Well, actually, yeah, we can do. Low poly, we'll go to the formation and then we'll inflate by minus 0.1. Did that do anything? Minus 1. Minus 1. Okay, so I would like us to now check the effect on the subtool. So let's deactivate the high. See, this is the problem. This is not what we want. So rather than doing what I've done here, I'm going to activate my high and I'm just going to make the high inflate. Okay, and that's that basically. It's fine. So now let's go into solo mode. On well, yeah. We'll deactivate solo mode, but deactivate the handle as well. So what we want to do now, using our pen, basically, we want to basically, well, add some sort of information on the actual surface of it, if you know what I mean. You know, to make these creases and such that generally leather has or textile you know, grips have. So now let's go into ST for the standard brush. Make sure you're in Z sub. Intensity, I would take that to around 18. Let's try with that. So now we basically, as you can see, we can create these sort of, you know, shapes around. So what you want to do is basically do creases and such. You know, well, actually don't do any creases where you can see the geometry popping out, because that's our basically our pressure points, so to speak. That's where the low poly comes out of the high poly a little bit. Again, we won't have any problems with the normal map, but if you put too much pressure in there, you will create that problem. As you can see, our smoothing effect from having these extra subdivisions has in a way created you know, too much of a smooth corner. I'm not really that fussed about it, to be honest. Now, one of the things that we need to do here is we basically want to activate symmetry. So just go into transform, activate symmetry, and make sure the Z-axis is active only. So as we do this, will affect both the areas. So again, I'm just going to try and speed this up as much as possible. You know, just go nuts with it. You know, just whatever. When you think you actually got a good result, that's when you stop doing this. You know, you can increase the brush size again if you want to. decrease the intensity if you think you're having too much of an effect on it. You know, I mean, we did add quite a lot of rings here on this. I would have probably preferred to go with a bit less, but it's really up to you. If you're a Leatherman, then try and think also, where does the character, where would he put his hands on this axe basically? What's the gripping point for the axe? And probably add bigger for example, you could add a bigger mark there on the grip. Anyway, something like that. Okay, so you get the idea, right? That's basically what we've achieved. So now what we want to do is, you know, leave our pen alone for now. We've done this topology. Let's activate the handle again. This is what we've got so far, and now we have some extra geometry that we don't need on both of these. So let's go into geometry. Make sure that we're on the lowest subdivision level, even on our high poly. Let's go into the solo mode. So what I want to do is I want to use Z modeler. Yeah. Let's go into top view. Control Shift and drag to separate the well, sorry, let's just go, let's try and do more in the middle. Okay, something like that. And now go on top of a polygon, press space, select delete, and say actually let's press Shift F. Yeah, should be yeah, I think should be fine. Let's try it. So over the polygon, delete polygroup all. Okay, and then just press and let's see what happens. Oh, the mesh is composed. Right, yeah, okay, we can do that. It's not a problem. Let's just delete the higher subdivision levels, and then oh, we lost our work, haven't we? Yeah, that's the problem. See, we needed to have done this before we would have, you know. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you what to do right now. So basically, we want to delete the polygroups. So you see, just like I did there. Now, if I Control Shift click and bring that back, we basically only deleted the polygroup on that side, but not on this side, because we're gonna have to basically you know, do that as well. So what we want to do is we want to use Z modeler before we do anything else. We want to use Z modeler to delete all the unnecessary geometry that we have. So let's just go to subtools, make sure that the handle is deactivated. We have our straps high selected. Now go into geometry, go to the lowest subdivision level, delete the higher one that you have. We'll come back to this later in a bit. So now that we've done that, let's go to polygroups again, and oh sorry, let's go into solo mode to begin with. Yeah, polygroups and group by normals, and this is important because now I want to delete all this all these polygons here. So make sure we go hover on top of a polygon, press space, make sure delete is selected, and have a polygroup all selected as well. And now when you click that, you will basically delete the polygon, and you're only going to be left with the outer shell basically, and that's what we want to do. Now the problem is that you won't be able to enter this tube and do this basically. So what we need to do is go to top view, Control Shift, and you now select this area, you know, just like that. Now bear in mind you have to do that for the other side as well, not just this side. So it's very important that you basically do these. It's just eliminates a lot of extra geometry. So let's just go on the other. You see we have the outer layer, but we're getting rid of the inside layer, which is very important, guys. You know, it's gonna help. I mean, the reason why I'm doing this on the high poly is because I just don't want to have any sort of baking errors. Yeah. So let's just keep on doing this. And we on the low poly we're going to add some we're going to add smoothing groups in when we go back into 3ds Max, so you don't need to worry about any of that. I think I've just added some polygons in there. Okay, so now that is complete, let's just have a look on the outside, make sure nothing is wrong. Yeah, looks about right. And now Control Shift drag, and now we're on this other side, and we'll do this again. Now we could have done this a lot quicker by, you know, when we made the high poly, we should have made sure that we would have done this task already. Yeah, that would have helped with with what we're doing right now. You know, we would have not wasted so much time. And sometimes it doesn't want to delete the polygons. I don't quite understand why. I don't think I'm centering correctly. Oh, it must be because of the brush size. Yeah, it's the brush size, isn't it? Too big. When the brush size is too big, ZBrush is trying to understand what you're trying to do. Are you trying to select an edge, or are you trying to select a point, and so on? So you may actually be doing other commands on here without even realizing. I probably did a few. But 3D is all about learning and having fun. Yeah, it's experimenting, and you'll be amazed at the things that you can find. So I'm just about done. I just want to finish the high poly to show you basically what I've done. Okay, so now this is looking quite okay. Control Shift click, and we bring the entire model back in here. And basically that's it. Yeah, you can see it's now it's hollow. And now I'm gonna do that for the low poly, and I'm just gonna skip over to that. So now that we have this done, we've got our straps high selected. Let's go into geometry, and let's make sure we divide this to the amount that it's supposed to be. Okay, and now if we press solo, this is basically it. Yeah. Now, some of the things that we want to do is, well, actually, let's deactivate solo. If you can see here, our low poly is kind of getting in the way of our high poly. So deformation, let's just inflate this guy a bit. Well, let's inflate him a bit more, actually. Yeah, something like that. Okay, and now we want to basically start adding these creases on the surface of the high poly. Yeah, the high poly is at 3 million points. I think a bit too high, so I'm just going to lower that and delete the higher subdivision level. Yeah, that should be fine. So now BST for the standard brush. Let's make sure we are in Z sub around 18 intensity. That should be fine. And now we can start adding some of these details. So let's go to transform, make sure the active symmetry is on and Z-axis is on as well, so we can edit at the same time on both sides. Now it's very important that you don't go too crazy on this in terms of the stroke power. What you want to do is you want to create these cavities. Now in Substance Painter, these cavities can be used to add extra detail. So if you plan ahead correctly, you will be able to get some really nice results. And you need to have these creases, as if the handle would be, held in any way, which obviously it is held. I'm trying to move this. I do notice the ZBrush really slows down if I try to move around the panel by basically alt and clicking on the screen. But if I use the menus, it works perfectly. So I'm very blown away by that. I don't understand why it's happening. And I've never been able to find an answer on it. I'm maybe just a noob who doesn't know what he's and even Zoom runs perfectly when you use the menu compared to doing it by using the screen itself. Just a bit of a bummer, to be honest, but there you have it. Right, I'm just going to increase the brush size a little bit. Normally what people will do is they'll pick an area where to add the most the biggest amount of this sort of creasing and cavities, and you know, I understand why, because that's where the grip would be. Again, I'm not trying to go to, you know, into too much detail on this, but we'll just leave it around there. You know, the normal map will bake correctly on that. So yeah, that's basically our strap finished. And speaking of which, this means, so if the strap is now finished, this means that the whole model is basically finished. Which then, so we'll just export these. We'll export all visible items. We'll put them into 3ds Max. We'll position them, and then what we basically want to do, the strap low, we want to add, you know, we want to smooth it out. So we'll apply auto smooth on these polygons, and it's already in shade, you know, in correct topology for the straps high. A bit on the beefy side in terms of polygons, but you know what? You need those smooth curves. It will look quite nice on the normal maps. So yeah, I'll see you guys in 3ds Max. Just make sure you export them as, you know, I generally just use the Z plugin and FBX export import to send them over to 3ds Max. So yeah, see you in 3ds Max.